Hello, everybody. How are you? I hope that you are doing well. Today, I have a very special treat for you guys. So, a part of February, is Black History Month. So, today we have Alelia Bundles. She is a journalist, producer, and author. Okay? That is just a few of the hats that she wears. But not only that, but she is the great granddaughter of Madam C.J. Walker. That is the first female millionaire. So I want to let you know that it is going to be an action-packed conversation. We are going to talk about Madam C.J. Walker's new hair care line, and we're also going to go into just all the new adventures that is going on, the Netflix miniseries that came out. So you are in for a treat. Give me 1 second. We are adding.
Hi.
Hello, hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are
I
you?
am doing great. Okay, I'm going to adjust just a little bit.
I think I need
Okay.
to put my volume up a little bit too. How's that?
Okay, no, we can hear each other perfectly.
Great.
How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
No, let me tell you, Miss Bundles, because I want to definitely be honorable with Miss Bundles. We first had a conversation on YouTube, and we talked about, the miniseries on Netflix. And then I looked on Instagram, and I said, whoa, Madam C.J. Walker's hair care line is back. I have got to talk to her again.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
so thank you again for just having. Can you just tell us? I know that you wear many hats: producer, author, journalist. You even worked with ABC as an executive producer. But for people who are just being introduced, can you tell them a little bit about you?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on this 8th day of Black History Month. But my name is Alelia Bundles, and I am Madam C.J. Walker's great granddaughter and biographer. So I grew up in Indianapolis in a household where both of my parents worked in the hair care industry. My passion was writing, and so I had a long career as a journalist, starting with junior high school newspapers and being a DJ in college. But I ultimately went to work after going to journalism school at Columbia. I worked at NBC News for 13 and a half years as a producer in New York, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, and Houston. And then I switched over to ABC, where I worked for 16 and a half years. And I was a producer with World News Tonight. Then I became deputy bureau chief in the Washington Bureau and then director of talent development. So all the while, I was writing about Madam Walker. My graduate school advisor in journalism recognized my name, Alelia, recognized the connection to Madam Walker, and basically told me that's what you're going to write your master's paper on. So that was almost 50 years ago. And I have both had the career in television news, and I have been really fortunate to be able to tell this story.
You are Madam C.J. Walker's brand historian. I mean, look at all of those books. That kind of reminds me of W.E.B. Du Bois. I looked at one of his photos. He had all of these. It was like a mini library in his house. And that's what you have behind you. That looks exactly.
Right. Yes. Well, and this is just one of the rooms with books. But, and it's interesting that you mentioned W.E.B. Du Bois, because when I was in high school, my senior year in high school, I read his book, The Souls of Black Folk. And I was in a predominantly white school, and Black history was not being taught. And that book really changed my life, changed my perspective. He was my intellectual hero. So I am a person who loves to have a good time, but I'm very much a person who loves to learn and to learn history. So yeah, that's why you see all those books behind me.
I love it. And, our generation, I think the Gen Z and millennials, we first get introduced right now to everything through social media. So for a lot of, people, if it's not on Netflix, Hulu, all of these big streaming services, just depending, of course, on what they're being taught in the public school system, then they're not going to learn it. So this generation's real first introduction to Madam C.J. Walker was through the Netflix film, and of course, I have the book Self Made. And I wanted to ask you, because we're going to get into the hair products, but for a lot of people who are watching and saying, "Oh my gosh, that's her great great granddaughter," what parts of the film were more dramatized than the others? Because I do my research online, and I'm like, wait a minute, did all of that happen?
Well, I don't know, 95% of it is not true. I hate to burst people's bubbles,
Mm-hmm.
but here's after much thought about this. My book, On Her Own Ground, the original title was optioned by a producer in Hollywood. And I made the decision to work with that particular producer because in our conversation, I saw a great deal of respect and, sort of a recognition of the research that I had done and that I was going to be involved in the process of shaping the story. But what happens sometimes in Hollywood is that once your book is optioned, depending on the integrity of the showrunners and head writers, they can exclude you from the process. But so I did not agree with the storyline. The storyline became a catfight between two women,
Yeah.
sort of Madam Walker and her competitor, and they introduced colorism, which really wasn't a part of her story. And for me, Octavia Spencer was great. She's a great actor. I really appreciated how she embodied Madam Walker. But the story itself was just so far from what I think was important about Madam Walker's life that I wanted to see more about women supporting women as opposed to this kind of cliche of two women, at each other's throats. And it left out the great support that Sarah Breedlove, as a poor washerwoman, that she got from the women of the church of
Right.
St. Paul African Methodist Episcopal Church. I wish that had been
wasn't in there.
a key part of the story. And it really sort of didn't have a lot about her philanthropy.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand that what they were trying to do was something that they thought would be attractive to a younger audience. But I believe, because as a person who taught myself history and reads widely, that we don't know our stories well enough. And so if you start making stuff up when people don't even have a foundation
Correct.
and a baseline,
Right.
I don't agree with that. I agree that you do have to dramatize things. That's fine. But I really wish that they had tried to tap into the core of who Madam Walker really was and the people around her.
No, I'll tell you this. I watched the full miniseries again with Octavia Spencer. I even looked at, some of the things with her daughter, just the different scenes. And I said, whoa. They brought it back to when she was in New York and then when she was traveling all around the world. In all honesty, I said she was Mary Kay with all of her sales agents before Mary Kay.
No, absolutely. Mary Kay wasn't even born. And I think one of the things that I love about what Madam Walker was doing, that she was training thousands of women when Black women had no real opportunity for careers. They were washerwomen, domestics, maids, cooks, working in the fields. And as they were becoming more urban, she was finding ways to help them become economically independent.
Yes.
At her first convention in 1917, before Mary Kay was born, Madam Walker gave prizes to her sales agents, the ones who'd sold the most products, but she also gave prizes to the women who had contributed the most to charity. She also was very politically active, so that at the end of the convention, the women sent a telegram to President Woodrow Wilson urging him to support legislation to make lynching a federal crime. I wish that had been in the Netflix series. Those are stories that I think are more important than a made-up story of two women fighting each other.
I see Northern Sister. She said that's why we need to tell our own stories and not sell them to Hollywood. But let me ask you this.
But that I will say this, sell them to Hollywood is that's how people are. That's how our stories are seen. Black Panther is an example of something done well. Yes. And when people say sell it to Hollywood, I think the assumption is that it's white writers and white showrunners. But in this case, it was Black women who were the head writer and the showrunner. So yes, I did not think that that would be the outcome. So yes, we need to finance our own stories. But Black Panther is an example of something that is in Hollywood that is done well with integrity. The kind of things that Ava DuVernay is doing,
Yes.
that is done with integrity. So if we want people to see it, sometimes we do have to try to navigate that space.
Now, well, let me ask you this, because you contributed to producing and providing historical context for people doing, producers like Netflix, producing the Hollywood version. But I mean, would you like to make your own version of this?
Yes, well, and again, my book was optioned, so they had the facts to work with. They just chose to take some of the facts and to ignore the other things. And during the scripting process, I was able to read the scripts.
Right.
I mean, although they tried to leave me out of the process, my contract said that I had script review. So I read the scripts. And when I read the scripts, I said, I wish you wouldn't do this. This is wrong. Please don't do this. And they took some of my suggestions, but ignored others. But yes, I am working on other projects. And you have an experience. It doesn't go exactly the way you want, but that doesn't mean you stop. I just am working on other things. And I'm almost finished with the first major biography of A'Lelia Walker, which will be out next year from Simon & Schuster. I have 2 more chapters to edit, so that will be going to my editor. And I would say, the character in the Netflix series had absolutely nothing to do with the real life A'Lelia Walker. I mean, it was just like everything about that was made up. So this new book will, I think, kind of set the record straight.
I mean, there is a lot of, I think it's important because we have someone, you are a living descendant, right? So we have the opportunity to talk, get the facts. I've seen a lot of the YouTube videos. We've seen a lot of, the op-eds and the opinions on, well, this is what I think, and this is the research that I gathered. Even, boiling down, because I want to get into her hair products that are now being sold at Walmart called Madam. And you can get them online or in store, correct?
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. The products were developed by Sundial Brands. And so people are familiar with Shea Moisture and Nubian Heritage. Well, Madam is a division of Sundial Brands, and which is a division of Unilever. The original company was founded by Richelieu Dennis, who now owns Essence and Essence Ventures, and who started the New Voices Fund. That's $100 million venture capital fund investing in women of color entrepreneurs. But the product was developed from Shea Moisture in partnership with Walmart. So the products are available exclusively at Walmart and Walmart.com. And you can see them right here above my shoulder.
Do you want to get one?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. Here you go. So this is the product.
Let me see, because I have written down here, I have my notes.
Yes,
Sorry,
so you can go, I mean, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, it's Madam, M-A-D-A-M, by MCJW. And you can go directly to that website, MADAM by MCJW.com, to look at the website, and you can see all of the products that are available.
You all have a hair scalp serum, Revive shampoo, Restore conditioner, the spray. But I want to ask you, because in addition to, the online research, the Netflix series, how much of her original ingredients is in some of these products today?
So, here's what I have: the original formula.
Really?
But consider this. The original remedy that Madam Walker was trying to address, more than 100 years ago, when most Americans did not have indoor plumbing or electricity, hygiene was really different. And it's a little gross to think about it, but people didn't take baths very often. They washed their hair even less. And as a result, people had dandruff beyond what you can imagine and scalp infections. So what her secret was: a shampoo, wash your hair more often than you had been, and then an ointment like Vaseline that included sulfur. Sulfur was a centuries-old remedy for healing skin infections. So you would wash your hair, your scalp was clean, and then you would put this ointment on your scalp, and then that would heal the dandruff and heal the infections. Once your scalp was healthy, your hair would grow back. Well, that was revolutionary in 1906 when she founded her company, though there had been other companies before her and pharmacists and doctors who recommended this kind of formula. But if you go forward 100 years, just think of all of the research and development that's been done during that period of time. So these formulas have been really developed by state-of-the-art chemists who really are taking into account all of the new science, because we no longer, you know, when you see sulfate-free shampoos, we no longer put sulfur into the hair care products. People don't use those heavy ointments like Vaseline, those old-timey things like Royal Crown. Instead, now the formulas are much lighter. So this is a revolution of 100 years. And here's the analogy that I make. In 1913, Madam Walker had an electric car, a Waverly electric car. Most people don't know there were electric cars that early. But if Madam Walker were alive today, she would be driving a Lyric or maybe a Tesla, though, you know, Tesla is kind of not high on my list these days for various reasons. But Lyric, the Cadillac electric car. So you think of, yes, there was an electric car in 1913, but the technology has improved so much. So we know the original formula, but the new products really take advantage of 100 years of research and development.
And I want to talk a little bit more about the products, because I looked at the hair serum and I said, okay, because when I looked at, you know, maybe like the developmental photos, it showed when she didn't have any hair and she had lost her hair. And then, of course, I'm looking at the movie, I'm reading, I'm like, okay, all these things going through my head. But then I look at, then her hair grew to about shoulder length. Then it went down her back. Was that because of you talked about like the Vaseline? Or was it the one that she used on her scalp? Or was it the shampoo? Was it a combination of all?
The combination. Again, you know, the idea of hygiene, and this is really kind of really difficult for us to understand, because we can just wake up in the morning and jump in the shower and it's easy. But if you had to go outside, pump the water in the well, heat the water, that meant people might bathe once a week, maybe not even that often. That sometimes they didn't wash their hair maybe once a month, sometimes not at all during the winter, because they're living in houses that aren't heated. They're, you know, they're exposed. So you just imagine what your hair would be like if you kept it covered all winter long, and just what would be going on on your scalp. And so just the idea of having a shampoo, a vegetable shampoo that you could wash your hair with, now you had something where your scalp was clean and it wasn't a harsh chemical like a lye soap. And then once your scalp is clean, if you put this ointment on, it's just like a medicine. But you imagine a Vaseline that has sulfur in it, and sulfur healed the dandruff and the infection. So then if you have a healthy scalp, your hair will grow back. So that's really what it was, having a clean, healthy scalp, which is what enabled the hair growth.
Now, I saw some of the YouTube reviews, and I mean, curly girls, they loving it. Okay. I saw some YouTube reviews and I'm like, okay, I'm about to get mine. And then I saw your, I think behind you, is that more of the kind of ointment?
Yes.
The one that you have.
So the balm to oil is my favorite. It comes in a smaller jar, and it actually looks like the original product, but it's a much lighter formula, so that it's not so heavy on your hair. And that's my favorite. But this, you know, shampoo, conditioner, there are two conditioners. There's a deep conditioner. There's a split-end serum. There's a scalp serum that really, especially during the winter, is good for itchy scalp. So it's it's a full line. And the focus, we really wanted the focus to be on healthy hair.
Yes.
Because that was her original concept, is that if you have a healthy scalp, a clean scalp, you will create an environment where your hair will grow. So I would tell you that when she was starting out and she was traveling around the country demonstrating her products and recruiting sales agents, women would write letters to her. And one woman wrote to her and she said, my hair used to be an eighth of an inch long, but I've been using your product and now my hair is down my back and I've been able to throw my wig away. So she really believed in healthy hair. But it was always a combination of healthy hair, how you looked, how you felt, how you looked. But it was also a combination of being economically independent. That, for me, while she developed a hair care product that was something that women needed, she realized that she was teaching these women, literally thousands of women all over the United States, the Caribbean, and Central America, that they wanted a product that was designed for them, but what they needed was education and economic independence so that they could make the next generation, help their children, get their children educated, buy homes, create generational wealth. So in some ways, the hair care products became a means to an end.
Listen, I love it. I'm telling you, I even, of course, I always refer back to the miniseries because that's what a lot of people will, refer back to. But then I also did my research. She donated to the NAACP, social causes. I want to tap into the comments over here. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Ms. Bundles, you have to get on Instagram Live more often. They want you on here. I see.
Yes, I'm ready.
We got the hair industry, Mila Barbary. We also have somebody else, Callie, Undefined Beauty, Danny CT Girl. Let us know how you are liking this live discussion. If you have any questions, we have Ms. Bundles on here for about 9 more minutes, so we will get your questions answered. I wanted to ask you, what made you launch her hair products again, like now? Like, why did you choose it this century?
Really, it's Richelieu Dennis, the founding CEO of Shea Moisture. Richelieu grew up in Liberia, and he came to the United States to go to college in the late 80s. And when he graduated, it was during the Civil War in Liberia. His mom came to his graduation in 1992, and they could not go back home because of the Civil War. But he needed to make a living. And they first started with his Sierra Leone grandmother's formula for shea butter. This is at a time when most people didn't know what shea butter was, and now you see it in everybody's products. But he also growing up in Liberia, had heard of Madam Walker and wanted to know if there were still products. So my family was involved in the company through the early 80s. And then the trademark was owned by another company, a small company that really was not a major player in the hair care market. And Richelieu bought that trademark from that company. And after he did that, he invited me to be a part of the products that he wanted to develop. So it was really Richelieu who helped to revive it. And then we created some products and those were sold for a while. And then really this launch came after Rich sold Sundial Brands to Unilever. And Kara Sabin, and folks should follow Kara. She is now head of health and wellness at Unilever. Kara and I worked together with a great marketing team, with a great chemist team to come up with what products we'd have. And it happened to be during the pandemic.
Right.
Really perfect timing because people were, I think, experimenting with their hair. People who had not had to do their own hair for a long time were having to get in touch with their hair texture and what was happening.
Rip out those braids.
Right. That's right.
Say, girl, that's what we got.
That's right. And so I think it was perfect timing as people were, making that discovery that we were there for them to try.
I think that this is really good. Amanda said, loving this, literally shared Ms. Bundle's social media info to her colleagues this morning. Hair Industry said they're re-releasing Ms. Bundle's podcast Sunday evening. You have a podcast?
Well, I don't have a podcast. That must be an interview that I did. As much as I would like to have a podcast, I have to admit there's no more time in the day.
Okay. No, I'm going to start work with merchandising for Shea Butter. And you know what? I just think that I'm looking at the reels and the content, and I said, Madam CJ Walker, if she was here right now, she would be one of the top beauty influencers. TikTok, Instagram. I even saw what that young lady did. She had the bonnet on and she took it off. She said, no, this is how my hair is early in the morning. And then using the products. That's what our generation likes to see.
You know, and it's, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. She would very much be on TikTok and Instagram. And one of the reasons that Madam Walker was so successful is that she was a great marketer. She knew how to use advertising. She knew how to use promotion. She advertised in the Black newspapers. But it's really important to think about, she put her own image on her product containers. And that was unheard of for a Black woman to use her own image in advertising and to show her natural hair. When in her first product container, you can see her hair is full and healthy and bushy. It's the natural texture. So that I think sort of distinguished her from some of her competitors, that she was really showing the beauty of Black women, and she was courageous enough to make that statement.
Yeah, and we also see, you know, in this generation, people say, you know, we don't hide anything. So I'm telling you, I think she would have fit right in. She would have been on live, doing a taste of, you know, testing her products. I mean, I really like it. If you all who are watching, make sure that you follow Miss A'Lelia Bundles. I see that Timothy M. Nolan said an A'Lelia Bundles podcast would definitely be fascinating to listen to, but I fully understand your reason.
You know, listen, Timothy Nolan is such a kind man. He's an artist who does amazing work. And we've never met each other in person, but he did a piece of me, an artistic piece of me early on, right after the series. And he's just great. So thank you, Tim, for always coming on. I really appreciate it.
And one more question. Do you think with the way natural hair will, of course, always be, and people want to be, you know, in root with their, you know, natural state, but with weave products out, do you think that there could be a launch of maybe weave extensions, wigs of like Madam C.J. Walker? What do you think about that?
Well, you know, one of the things that I love, because I grew up with, as I say, with both parents who worked in the hair care industry. So I've seen 70 years worth of hairstyles and trends and back and forth. And I think I love how people are expressing themselves with hairstyles. I mean, that's one of the things I love the most about Black Panther was Camille Friend, who's the hair designer. All of the ways that she is highlighting our hair. I love just, you know, walking down the street and seeing what people are doing. So I love that people express themselves. But I do have to say that my bias, if I have one, is for people to really work on their natural hair, to have healthy hair. If you want to add extensions and do other things, but that would not be what I would go for with our product line. I'm really trying to encourage people to be in touch with their natural hair, be in touch with the texture of their hair, work with that, and then add whatever you want. But for me, healthy hair is really our core value.
I saw it was, I told you again, I looked at, you know, Sarah Breedlove, you know, Madam C.J. Walker photo, how she went from having no hair, then she went from developing her product, it went to shoulder, then to back. I saw her face get clear, her actual skin get clear throughout those photos. And I said that when you talk about taking care of your hair, you also taking care of maybe like the oils and stuff that you're putting in it. So I definitely agree. Well, Miss Bundles, do you have anything else that you want to tell, you know, the people? They want you to be on here more often.
Well, good. I appreciate that. I really do. So here's what I'd say, and thank you again so much for inviting me. But here's what I would say. You were talking about how people, you know, that it has to be on TikTok, it has to be on Netflix, that it has to be, you know, video for people to pay attention. And I get that. But I really would love to encourage people, visit my website, AleliaBundles.com, MadamCJWalker.com, because we're always posting new videos there. But, you know, pick up a book sometimes. If you don't really feel like reading a book, I have recorded On Her Own Ground on Audible so people can listen to it, because knowing the accurate history is really important. And I am very passionate about this right now, because there are so many cities and so many state legislatures that are trying to erase and prevent our history from being told. And that will consign our children and our grandchildren to ignorance. So it is, I think, our responsibility to learn the facts, not just to rely on the Hollywood version, but to really learn the truth and the facts about our ancestors. I think we owe it to our ancestors, not just the famous ones like Madam Walker, but to learn our own family history. I just recorded a new Ancestry.com ad that's posted on Twitter and on Facebook and on my Instagram page for a show that Layla Ali is hosting called on History Channel called Greatest of All Time. So I hope people will check that out.
And another thing is, this is the idea that I have for you. Maybe, because I know that you go around to different colleges and schools. By trade, I'm a social media manager, digital marketer. That's just what I do. But I think it would be really cool maybe if you have a digital series of you talking and you breaking it down where people can go download, purchase, and it would basically be your story on Madam C.J. Walker and maybe how to discover your family history, because a lot of people, again, so many websites, resources, but you want to get to the direct
That's
source.
Right. You are absolutely right. Listen, I will tell you that I am as I said, 2 chapters away from finally finishing this biography of A'Lelia Walker. So then once that is off my plate, hopefully there will be some bandwidth where I can do some of these things. I appreciate the suggestion.
No problem. Thank you again. And everybody, make sure that you go follow Miss Bundles. You do answer DMs, right?
Yes.
She will answer your DM. So ask her some questions, give her some reviews on what you think about what's out there online, and make sure that you go purchase Madam. It is on, what is the Instagram handle for Madam?
Madam by mcjw.com.
Okay, perfect.
And it's on walmart.com as well.
Somebody said they're excited for the good book. All right, I will see you later, and thank you again for joining.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
You too. Let me see this.